Greetings and salutations. Thank you for clicking on the video. I do appreciate it. Today we're going to take a look around Linux Mint 18.3 Sylvia. This is the beta that was released yesterday, and I have it running on two machines. I've actually got it running on my hardware, the machine that I'm recording the video on, and we have it running in a virtual machine so we may play with some of the features. And it's a really cool update to Linux Mint 18.2. It is in beta right now, which means that it's not available for general download and it is not available as an upgrade yet. When it becomes final, if you are running Linux Mint 18.2, you will be able to simply open up the Update Manager and click on a menu item to do the upgrade, and that will be completely up to you. The way Linux Mint works is that anything in a series is supported for the entire run of that series. So everything in Series 18 right now is supported. So even if you're running Linux Mint 18 or 18.1, you don't have to upgrade to anything if you like what you got going on. But Linux Mint 18.3 offers some really powerful features, and we're going to take a look at that. We're looking at the Linux Mint blog right now. This is the one from October, and this is where they go through some of the features that will be coming up. First thing I want to talk about is that Linux Mint 18.3 is the last one that's going to offer the KDE desktop. When they move to the next series, which will be Linux Mint 19, they will no longer offer KDE. And they go into great detail explaining why, and I do understand why they're doing it. It's just simply because the KDE Plasma project is going in a different direction than Linux Mint themselves is going in. Linux Mint Debian Edition 3 is coming along. It will be called Cindy, and this is Linux Mint that is based on Debian, not Ubuntu. LMDE has been around for quite some time. It's a very stable and very it's a similar experience to regular Linux Mint that's based on Ubuntu, although the Debian edition tends to be a little bit more limiting as far as what software you can install, because it relies on the Debian repositories. Of course, now we are getting into universal package managers like Flatpack and Snap, and if they're available to you, then you can pretty much install whatever you want to, and it's no big deal. So LMDE will be coming along right after the first of the year. They talk about t-shirts. They talk about Flatpaks, which is now in Linux Mint 18.3. A Flatpak is a universal package format for people to distribute software to Linux, and it is available in every major Linux distribution. It is integrated into the GNOME desktop. Linux Mint's Cinnamon desktop is based on GNOME, uses a lot of GNOME tools, so they have actually put Flatpak in here now. And it's kind of raised a few eyebrows in the Linux world that Linux Mint didn't go with Snap, because that is what Ubuntu is using, but they have their own reasons for going with Flatpak. And if you want to run Snap packages, that's no problem. Flatpaks and Snap packages are not mutually exclusive. You can have both if you want to. To run Snap on Linux Mint, all you got to do is install Snapd and you're done. It'll work just fine. So yeah, they go into great detail here. Why Flatpak? So if you want to read about this, you can come to the Linux Mint blog. This is what it looks like when it's running. I have tried to install a Flatpak a couple of times and it didn't install. So I'll give it another shot in the video and then we can talk about that. So let's jump over here to a virtual machine which is running Linux Mint 18.3, and we will take a look at trying to install something from a Flatpak. This is the new software manager. It's going to take a couple of seconds to load. This is what it looks like. Why won't you go away? I don't want that up there, but it's wanting to hang around. Thank you. This is what it looks like. We have the editor's picks right up front. This looks very much like the GNOME software application. I'm sure that it was adapted from that. And we have all of the different categories down here, and then over here we have Flatpaks. Now my biggest complaint with GNOME software has always been that it doesn't show everything in the system. Linux Mint still ships Synaptic Package Manager. That will show everything available in the repositories. It won't show Flatpaks, but it'll show what's actually in the Linux Mint or Ubuntu repository, so that's cool. So let's just pick one and see if we can install it. I tried to install Discord earlier. That's the one that wouldn't install. So let's see if we can find one that we can install here. Let's install Spotify from a Flatpack. See if it does it. I usually install that from the Spotify repository. So I'm clicking install, and it is going to try and install Spotify. See if we actually get it come up. You can also, if those of you who watch my videos know that Spotify has their own repository that you can hook up to any Ubuntu or Debian-based Linux, and then you can install the latest Spotify from there. That's usually the way I do it, is I hook up that repository. Now this probably will take it a little time, so let's go and look at some of the other features and let that sit there and crunch along. And we'll talk about, let's see, what else have we got to talk about here? We've got online accounts now integrated into the Cinnamon desktop, which means that you can hook your desktop up to things like Facebook or OhmCloud or Google Drive. And if you do that, then you'll be able to browse those things in Nemo, the file manager, directly. Now, if that's a feature that appeals to you, you go ahead and use it. That's something that I never use on the GNOME desktop. I just don't feel comfortable hooking all that stuff up, and I just don't do it. We have the new PIA manager, which is private internet access. Timeshift is a very important program that we need to talk about. I saw Redshift, and it made me think of Timeshift, so hopefully I won't forget to talk about Timeshift in this video. Redshift is, it looks at the clock, and it dims the screen, changes the color a little bit when it gets to be nighttime, so that your eyes don't get all, blown out by the white light on the screen at night. That's something that has been integrated into the GNOME desktop for quite some time, and that's now just on in Linux Mint. And yesterday evening I forgot about that and actually started adjusting the color on my monitor, because I was, and that's Redshift. Something I need to get used to. I guess you can turn that off if you don't want it. All right, this is the system reports here, and we can just go ahead and jump over here and take a look at that. Thus far, I don't seem to have anything in system reports. As you can see there, it's an empty page, so that might be something that's still being worked on. Remember, we are looking at a beta, so that's what we have there. So yeah, we manipulate all this information. Well, none of it's here. So they don't say anything anywhere in here about having to activate that. There you go. Lots of improvements to the X apps. I do love me the X apps. It's one of the things that keeps bringing me back to Linux Mint, because they have some pretty powerful tools in here. So let me show you my two favorites. My real favorite is Xed. Xed is just the bomb. This is their text editor, and it is based on Pluma, and they've added a few extra little features in here. Very straightforward interface. You have a proper menu up top. You can full screen it if you like. I have mine set up to show you the margins. So, and also you can just scale the text by holding down the control key and zooming in and out. I not only use this for writing scripts, I use this for writing text these days. This is my text editor of choice for writing things that get posted on the internet and so forth. I just absolutely love Xed. Simple, but it's got enough plugins and power on it to make it useful. And if we go into the tools here, we can check the spelling. We've got auto check on there. Love Xed. Another one that I really like is Pix. So let's take a look at Pix, and this is a picture viewer. And it brings up a bunch of pictures here. This is the best of this. I really like this when compared to Gthumb and Shotwell, which are the two that are generally the ones that you'll find shipped with most Linux distribution. In Ubuntu, they ship Shotwell usually, and then you can also get Gthumb. And I really like this because what this is, it's based on Gthumb, but it's a more traditional interface, and it works really quite well, and I do like it a lot. Pix. And I like Shotwell for the interface, but Shotwell can be a bit of a pain when it comes to managing things like saving pictures, and because of the way it works, it's non-destructive. So you have to make a copy of it to save it or save as. And Pix works directly with the picture. It is a destructive editor. If you click change something and then you click save, it saves. But for me, that's fine. So I do like that. And Pix is a very nice spin on GThumb. A fork, if you will. So let's go over here and check on our Flatpack and see if it installed, and it's still crunching along. This is what happened when I tried to install Discord. I was trying to install some Flatpaks and they just seem to stall out and they never show up on the system. So maybe that's something that they need to work on, or it could be, I have no idea why it's doing this whatsoever. I'm just showing you, there it is. So the software manager probably needs a little bit of work. And I'm sure that I will be filing a bug report later if I can reproduce it. So there you go. While we're here, let's look at Timeshift. This is a very important addition to Linux Mint, and I will probably be doing a separate video on Timeshift at some point down the road. So I'm not going to get too deep into it in this one. Timeshift is a very important add-on to Linux Mint. It's actually a really great program, and it's hard for me to say that because I just spent a year working with Jeremy O'Connell to write a program that does exactly the same thing. And we looked at Timeshift. We researched it a little bit when we were looking at writing CYA. And this is the first time that I've actually seen it in practice. So I got to say they did a pretty good job, and it is integrated in Linux Mint. So what is Timeshift? It is a program that will take snapshots of the condition of your system, and then it will allow you to restore them later. So when you first open it, it goes to the wizard, and then the first thing it asks you is whether you want to use an rsync or Btrfs type snapshot. Well, rsync's going to be the only one that you're going to have access to unless you have Btrfs for your file system. Linux Mint ships with ext4, and so therefore you're probably going to use rsync. This is the tool that we also use with CYA when we wrote that program, and there you go. So they have some brief instructions here that you can read through. You click next. The first thing that it's going to ask you is what disk that you want it on. Now, in this particular virtual machine, I have a partition for the system, which is SDA1, and then SDA5 is a logical partition that the home directory is on. It will always default to the directory or the partition which is the furthest away from the system, which is a good idea. Now, the standard install of Linux Mint creates one big happy partition. In that case, you really don't have a choice. You're going to put it in the same place. But if you have created a separate home directory, you can do that. And also, yes, you can set this up where you can do this on an external drive as well, but that kind of defeats the automation. So same thing with CYA. You can redirect where it puts the stuff. This is pretty logical. So this basically right now is going to put this in the home directory. It's where it's going to go. Not in your particular home directory, but that's where it's going to be. Going to be alongside the... We'll take a look at where it goes here in just a minute if you're confused. So now you set up your scheduling. Right now this is not set up to do anything. You can have it run at boot time, or you can have it run monthly, weekly, daily, or hourly. And it will create a snapshot of the system on a daily basis. So let's go ahead and make ours run daily. And this is using cron to do this. They actually set up a cron job that runs every hour. So they have decided that they're not going to use Anacron. They're not going to use systemd to do this. That's fine. And some of you watching this video will not know what I'm talking about. But like I said, I just spent a year writing a piece of software. It's exactly like this. And we chose to leave that to the person who was setting it up. In our case, we wrote scripts for Anacron and systemd and said either one, go ahead, knock yourself out. So let's see what else we have. So that brings us around to the beginning. So we're done. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a snapshot manually. This would be the same as typing in your terminal CYA save. And this is going to take it a few moments to do, obviously. While it's doing that, let's jump over here and check our Flatpack and see whether it ever installed. No, Spotify never installed from this Flatpack. Okay, that is the fourth time that I have tried to install something and it hasn't installed. So that seems to be the way that works. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and let this create its snapshot, and we'll come back when it's done. I'm going to pause the video and use the power of TV time. Okay, that's all finished up, and the program is telling us that we have one snapshot. It is showing up here. That took that probably 5 or 6 minutes because it's the first time around. So let's create another snapshot. Now, this one's going to go a lot faster. Now remember, I also have it set up to automatically create snapshots. Why is this one going so much faster? Well, because what it is doing is it's only saving differences. And then because there's only about 2 minutes, there's not going to be any differences. It's not going to show much. Well, it says that 2 files had changed since then. So now we have the second snapshot, and it's done. So this is what's happening in the background. We've got a couple of snapshots. Now, this will let you restore the system from these snapshots. Okay, so let me give you a scenario. If you install drivers and it gets messed up and you can't, something's not working right, then just roll back to another date. That's all you got to do. So you would click Restore, and I haven't selected any snapshots, and then you would tell it to proceed. Let's see what happens if I want to restore my first snapshot. It says yes, and it asks us some questions. Keep it on the root device, where it's coming from, where it's going. See, those of you who've been following CYA know that this does exactly the same thing. It's pretty, except this is pointy clicky. So then I could restore from here if I wanted to. And it works quite well. I've actually done it. I'm not going to do it in this video, but let's see where it puts it real quick. So I'm going to go to the home directory, and then we're going to click on File System right there, and go to Home. You see we now have a directory in here called Timeshift, and here's where the snapshots go. So there's the ones that we've created. They're both right there. So let's really put this to the test. Let's see how well it works, shall we? And I'm going to show you. Let's on purpose trash the system, and let's restore it. Okay, so let me open up a terminal, and what we're going to do is we're going to cd to boot. This is where your terminal is. This is where your kernel lives, is in boot. All right, so I'll show you what's in there. There's your kernels. What if I would do sudo rm, and then we would put rf on here, which means that, get rid of everything in here. Get rid of all of it. Okay, let's go here. And it might not have actually done it. Let me make sure the stuff's not there now. cd boot. Yeah, I think I put that directory thing in there, and those aren't directories, those are files. So probably all still there. Yeah, it is. So let's just do rm f everything in here. I'm basically telling the thing to get rid of all of it. And we'll have to do that with super user privileges. All right. Don't ever actually do this in your system. So, yeah, let's get rid of the directories too. Okay. Oh, we have an empty directory. This means that this virtual machine will not boot. There's no way. There's no kernel. So let's reboot it and see if it works. Okay. It's restart. Now watch this. It's not going to boot. Yep, we killed it. It's dead. So how are we going to get it back? I mean, we've taken snapshots. How do we restore them? And this is what makes the way that Linux Mint has implemented Timeshift very, very cool. I've completely borked up this system. It's not going to work at all. So what I need to do is go ahead and close this machine. Now run off and grab what we're going to do. Yeah, go ahead and close the machine. I need to open the hypervisor. And we'll make a real quick change here. So all we got to do is hook up. Let's see, where is it? Right there. And we put Linux Mint 18.3 in that drive. Now we are booting the system off of the boot media that we used to install it. This is why it is very important to always save your boot media. So make sure you put that away, whether that be a USB stick or something else, okay? Because this is how you would recover your system if it gets messed up. And now with Timeshift, it's going to be super easy to do. So we'll let that boot. Magic of TV time, yet again, we booted the system. And now we are running off of the live. And so what we're going to do is we're going to open up the menu and we're going to find Timeshift. We're going to run that. And we're going to get it out of that. We're going to say finish. That's fine. Notice that we see this is what we've created. It's actually looked on the system drive there, found these restore points, these backups that we've made, and we're going to restore it. So we'll just pick the first one. We'll click restore, and we'll say yes. And we are restoring. So what it's going to do is it will put our boot files back. It's going to put our kernel back in. And we should be able to boot the machine. So I'm going to let that crunch. TV time yet again. Okay, we're all restored. So let's reboot the system and see if it boots up now. Restart. Yes, press enter to eject the USB, which actually in this case is just a virtual DVD. And if it boots up into the system, then that was successful. So yeah, it's booting. It's going to work. Timeshift, very cool. Very similar to CYA, which is the reason why I took so much time on that. Actually, Timeshift has been around. We did CYA for a slightly different kind of user anyway. It is somebody who is more familiar with Bash and somebody who would, really want to control every step of the process. This is more pointy clicky, and what's really great about this is since it's now integrated into Linux Mint, that means that even clients who are not that computer savvy, I can walk them through setting up Timeshift like that. And then if something happens to their system, they call me up and they say, or send me an email, broke it. And I'd say, okay, use Timeshift and restore. And it works you can restore from a running system, or you can do it from the Linux Mint install media. Awesome. Wonderful job. A great job from the Timeshift people and a great job from Linux Mint for integrating this in. So that's the most exciting feature that is in Linux Mint 18.3, and the main reason that I would tell people, yes, you do need to upgrade, because having access to that is really cool. Now, as far as the software manager stuff, they've obviously got some work to do, so we'll see. This is in beta. Let me stress this one more time. We are looking at a beta version. It's a first look. There's a lot of work that probably still needs to be done to this, although I think it is stable enough to run on hardware. That is why I'm doing it. If you want to get yourself a copy, just come to the Linux Mint blog, and it is posted there, and you can install it in a virtual machine. They have the Mate edition up right now, and they also have the Cinnamon edition, and then you just come down here and you can install it from any of the mirrors. It is not available on the main download page. This is where you actually get the betas that you can play with. And then when it becomes a full-fledged upgrade, it will be so easy and simple to upgrade if you're running an existing Linux Mint 18 whatever that all you got to do is click on it, and then an upgrade tool will come up and it'll take care of it. And so yes, I fully anticipated saying, well, I don't. If you're like 18.2, you need to stay with 18.2. But really, to get a hold of that time shift feature, everything else works exactly the same. I mean, if your system is set up and running and you like it, no problems. You can upgrade to 18.3 and you can get that feature. It's well worth the price of admission to do that. So when that comes along, yes, I do recommend that you do that. I fully anticipated saying no, stay with it if you like 18.2. I didn't think there would be that much of a difference, but actually, after playing with it, this is awesome. This is why we wrote CYA. It's a feature that needs to be available. Time shift is really great, but if you're using time shift it requires a graphic environment, and so therefore it's not really useful for people who are running computers on a network, servers, Internet of Things devices. That's what CYA is aimed at. Or anybody who wants to have complete control over it, you can use that as well. So there you go. Thank you for watching the video. I do appreciate it. And be sure and check out Easy Linux on Facebook. Be sure and check out Easy Linux on the web. Check out Easy Linux on freedompenguin.com because lots of content is appearing there lately. And the links to that will be in the description. Also, the links to this blog page will be there as well. So you can look at the betas as they come along because they will be posted there on the Linux Mint blog. Thank you for watching. Talk to you again soon.